initially would get data like this, there was this hesitation to want to share it, right? One, you can make any excuse. One, it's too much. My community, especially when you think about parents, or some of my teachers just might not understand it, so maybe I'll only share parts of it. Or maybe it doesn't reflect where I want the school to be, similar to like you step on the scale like I did this morning, and you're like, oh, put on a few pounds. Like, I don't want my wife to know that. Like, I'm a little heavier now. But actually the information is coming. What's that?
She knows.
She knows, exactly. And your school knows too, right? Like, it's the same thing. Like, if you're in the red in an area, there's no point in really not sharing that. In fact, I would say sitting in your seat, my school went through an SQR in my second year's principal, and that was the best piece of data I could have ever gotten. Because it's not yet yours, right? It's data that you can share and bring the community together and say, hey, I'm here to help, I'm here to work with you, but it's not yet at a point where like you necessarily need to feel like, oh, all the daggers are coming towards me, and it's like working with your community then to say, okay, what do we do about this data? I want to share a little bit about Garfield's cycle of action. So I think most of us as instructional leaders and whatever program you went through, new leaders, ELI, or any other program, you get a lot about talking to you around your instructional leadership team, kind of cycles of inquiry on the instructional level. I found that I did not necessarily get as much around, okay, so I have this SPF. Now, how do I galvanize my community around it, right? So one thing is just taking a leap and saying I'm gonna find a meaningful way to share this and not just back in Title I night or like any chance that I get. But two is like, okay, how do I actually get the community to own this data and feel like they can do something about it? So at Garfield, along with our community agency, we work with EBASI, we came up with this thing called the cycle of action, which is not that different than what you would do with ELCs or your ILT, but it does put the lens on how are you doing this with your school community, meaning primarily parents and a team of teachers, but not necessarily the whole staff if you don't have that. And I kind of want to talk through it, and I want to take you through two cycles of action that Garfield did. One related to school culture using the SQR. I know all of you might not go through an SQR this year or might not have experience, but essentially the SQR is kind of like a very detailed diagnostic of your school. So it's not just looking at test scores and SEL, like they'll come in and review on how is your college going culture? What evidence do you have that this school has a strong college going culture? So a little bit more anecdotal, but there is a root for that. So I want to take you a little bit through how Garfield responded to some feedback around our college going culture and something that I would say is more cultural. And then I also want to take you through a cycle we recently did with our ELAC around academics and what we're doing to support our EL reclassification. So the cycle goes, you look at data to identify an area of improvement, kind of check, right? We all kind of do that. This is my favorite part of the cycle. You go out and become experts in that area, right? So we often find ourselves sitting at a table and everyone's looking at us to have the answer, especially as a new incoming principal, right? They're just like, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Or there's folks at the table that are like, oh, I got the answer, and they haven't actually taken the time to become experts. And so I get really excited about this idea of like going out and stealing what works from other schools. Like I think as principals, we need to kick on the butt to do that more. Get out of your building, go find a school that's working, and just like pick their brains, steal that, and bring it back. Because then you bring it back, you make a plan of action, which considers your school context, right? So at Garfield, if we went and visited a charter school, we might not be able to do everything that charter school did, but we can say, how does that fit into our context here at Garfield? And then lastly, it's implement that plan, make sure you have the opportunity to collect data, and then you can either go back and say, nope, we still gotta keep working on it, or nope, the data is improved, we're gonna pick another area. So that's kind of very abstract philosophical, so let's get into the details of what that looks like. Garfield, I think in 2013, 12 even, had the SQR come through, and we got a lot of skating data. I mean, good skating data, right? Like empowering, we gotta fix this, we do it. But it was nice to get that data, because it wasn't me telling my staff, hey, we have a zero in college going culture. It's like, hey, this team of folks came in, took the time to do this, gave us a rubric and said there's really no evidence, which was true. We're like, okay, we worked with our parents and we said, that's the data we want to prove. Because in our vision it said, we're gonna be a school that prepares every student for college. So if the district is saying we're a 0 out of 4, and we have seen there's no evidence, let's fix that, and that's kind of a low-hanging fruit. That's something I would want to encourage you to. Like, what are some quick wins that you can build in your first year that while you're working on some real big rocks that you're thinking you're planting seeds for in years 3, 4, and 5, year 1, like what could you come up with that's like a quick win? So strategically, us picking college going culture was like, that's a lot of aesthetics. We could probably fix that quickly. So when we named that and our families were like, yeah, we want to fix that, we said, okay, let's do our research. Let's get on the phone. Let's ask around, who are the schools in Oakland that just have a kick-ass college going culture? Like those schools, and I think we've all been to them, be like, walk in, like everyone calls the kids scholars, and there's college banners everywhere, and like all the staff wearing college t-shirts, and it's just like homerooms are called their colleges, right? So like it just oozes like we talk about college here. And so we found a few of those schools, we went and visited, some of them were charters, some of them were right here in the district. We visited our very own Greenleaf with Monica and Thomas, thank you so much for all your help. And then we came back to Garfield and we said, okay, what can we do? And this is where it's like, okay, now your parents that you've gone with and any teachers you went with have somewhat become experts. So folks aren't just sitting there like spouting off ideas. They're actually like, I saw banners, I want banners. And you're like, okay, I saw banners too, let's go ask them how much they cost. Let's build that into our site budget, right? Like that's the most fun part to go see. And then when you come back, you're out of the abstract into like real things. So like in that school, every adult called students scholars. Can we do that? And I'm like the principal, and I'm like, yeah, I think we can do that. Like if we tell our staff that parents really want this, yeah, we can do that. So then we stole some of those ideas. We bought the college banners, and now you walk through Garfield, and everyone's always like, oh, look at these college banners. It's an aesthetic. We're not yet living up to our vision, but it looks a lot better, and it sends a message to everyone that comes to our school, at least what we're aspiring to do. So that might have moved us from a 0 to a 1, right? So already it's like we're making progress on data, and this process has also empowered folks on that team to feel like, hey, we can change them, right? Especially if you're going into a school that might feel a little stuck or might have always done things a certain way, taking them through an action cycle like this, and be like, oh, okay, we can make changes and we can do something positive. So when we came back, the data that we collected on this, I think we actually asked for SQR to come back. I think at that point they were kind of busy. So we kind of did a mock audit of ourselves and went through and said, okay, now our scores are closer to like a 2 or a 3. So we're like, okay, that is one action cycle Garfield did on culture. The next one we did this year was on academics. And this is one I'm really proud of because I actually had very little to do with this one. And I think what you'll find at your schools in terms of delegating and building people's leadership, my TSA, who does EL work, and our community schools manager led this one all on their own. And it's because they'd internalized the process. It's kind of like, here's what Garfield does. So they were able to run with the whole thing themselves. The data we used, actually, we could find in our SPF. At our school, in 15-16, our African American students ended up getting like a 5 in growth for SRI. So 5 in growth, that's like the highest you can get. So they were still red in overall. But we were like, oh shoot, okay, we're doing stuff that's working for African American students, great. We looked at our EL students, they were a red in overall, a red in growth, and our reclassification was red. So it's like alarms going off, like Garfield is not doing a good enough job yet serving our ELs. So that's kind of the data that we said, shoot, we know we're using some new things that are helping around literacy, but why is it doing so much for African American students and so little for our ELs? And then to top it off, we're not reclassifying, and we found it was like a lot of our literacy issues as well. So we said that's the area we want to improve. We got on the phone, we did our research, and the other thing that's nice about the SPF, you have access to other people's SPFs, right? So don't just study yours, study other people's. And not in the sense of like the competitive piece, which is eventually gonna come out. You're gonna look at your school and the neighborhood, the school next to you, and you're gonna be like, how am I doing? Am I better? Am I worse? Am I the same? And I think that's healthy. I think that's good. It keeps us, whatever motivates you and pushes you. But also go out of your way to find similar schools that are just kicking ass in the area that you're trying to improve in, right? And have that humility, which I know we all do, to say, I want to know what you're doing. And then take the time to take a team with you to go visit those schools. For us, that school was Urban Promise Academy. So middle school. UPA was in the, yeah, dude. Kudos to you and the UPA team, man. You guys do some awesome stuff.
It's a team.
Yeah.
It's a big team.
So pick this guy's brain on like what UPA does and on EL classification, because I'm not gonna really get into the details. I'll give you like some highlights, but man, so impressed. So our community schools manager and our TSA who does EL work took a team of parents and teachers to go visit not just UPA, but I'm gonna use UPA as an example, and came back and they're like, UPA, man, what are you guys doing? They're like killing it with reclassification compared to other schools in the district. And so that was us going out to become experts, right? Like, we didn't have the answers, we just had the data that told us we gotta work on this. So when we came back, the things that came up was UPA does this thing called Boost in the morning, right? You wanna share a little bit about Boost?
Yeah, it's just a very strategic extra support with the students' English teachers, who they'll see later in the day. That is very targeted. It's small group. Everybody's at the same table. There's constant language, and we've seen the results.
Yeah, right. So what that did for us is like it raised the bar. It was like, oh shoot, we got to think extended day. Like they do this like an hour before school starts, and like that kind of stuff's good, right? It blows your mind a little, pushes you outside the box, and says, okay, like I'm not just confined to this. I'm going to be creative and steal from other people. So they do this hour that's earlier in the day. It's super targeted. They use data. So like for us, what it did was it was like, oh, you can't just keep doing the same things and expect different outcomes. You actually have to do like drastically more like laser focused things, and like now it makes sense. So what we did, we then took that from our ELAC that the parents saw and they loved it, then to our site council and we said, okay, this year we need a budget for boost for the upcoming year, right? So then you get into the details, extend a contract, what curriculum, who are the teachers, but we're no longer in that land of like, we see the data but have no idea what to do. And so this is gonna be our first year implementing that as one of our key strategies. And so in a year, when we get the SPF after we implement it, we're gonna go back to the SPF and hope to see that we're moving in those areas, right? And I think when I go back to where I started kind of 6 years ago and not having this SPF tool, we wouldn't have been able to do that as nimbly and as effectively. So I think that's kind of like where I stand here, and I have my deep appreciation for the tool, that we're gonna get that ongoing data. And then what David's team also does, which is nice, is you're getting like these even weekly reports on some of the finer slices of data. So those of you who've been in the district, you kind of know the weekly engagement reports. If you haven't been, it's really nice because his team sends this out in an email blast. So that's where you're monitoring things like your chronic absence, your suspensions, some of your referral data. That doesn't have to wait like a whole year. Like you don't want to wait a whole year to kind of have an aha on those. You want to be able to respond more quickly. And I'd say you can do similar cycle actions, but certainly even with that finer level data, I would say you don't want to fall into the pitfall of not sharing. You want to make sure that you are having teams on your campus that are taking responsibility. So for example, chronic absence, our attendance team. They met once a week. Anytime I got that data, I sent it off, and eventually our lead for the attendance team just got those reports directly. And when you need that to happen, you just contact David and say, like, cut the middleman out. I'm not sitting on that team every week. I've delegated. How can we get someone else to do that? So that's just a little bit. That's